Our women have paved the way for so many opportunities in Barbados and around the world. Those kids are the future of tourism in Barbados. We need to be better in helping the average Barbadian to understand what's in it for them.
Welcome. We're on the red couch again, and today my special guest is none other than the Chief Product Development Officer at what we all know as the BTMI, Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated, the agency responsible for marketing Barbados regionally and internationally. And that guest is Marsha Alleyne. Welcome to the red couch.
Thank you so much.
Love your outfit, by the way.
Thank you.
All the Barbados branding, boy, I tell you.
Representing all the way. All the way. Definitely.
So Marsha, when I had a look at your resume, I realized that you've pretty much spent your entire life in the tourism industry.
Absolutely. I can't think of, for me, being in tourism has been my life passion. That's why I would say I've always wanted to be in tourism. Actually, no, that's not quite true. When I was about 16 years old, up to 16, I wanted to be a pilot. And then I had the opportunity to visit the Cobblers Cove Hotel. This is when I was 16 years old, we were doing a special for Valentine's Day, and the school I was going to, the Alexandra School. Let me just pick up the school right now.
Yeah, always big to the school. Yeah.
And we actually went to the Cobblers Cove Hotel and spent the day with these visitors. Had an opportunity to speak with the late Richard Williams, who is now deceased, and we had a fantastic experience. He called me into his office, I think the next day, and he said, I think you have some qualities that we would love to see. He did that, absolutely, in the tourism industry. He said, I would love to be able to, mentor you so that, we see what happens. Of course, I went home and told my mother. My mother said, what? Somebody mentoring you? I don't think so, But having said that, my love for tourism, was birthed at that time. And I decided, rather than going to flight school, which I couldn't afford anyway, I settled for the BCC and I went to the Barbados Community College and I did my first degree in tourism, my associate degree actually in tourism and travel management.
And you later did a master's.
I did.
At UWI.
I did.
We say tourism is our business. Let's play our part and so on. And we say that every Bajan is a potential tourist too as well. And we all recognize the importance of tourism. It is our number one revenue earner. It is also a number one employer too as well in the private sector in Barbados. And yet, if I want to learn about tourism, nobody teaches me about tourism at primary school. Nobody teaches me about tourism at secondary school. I have to almost wait until I get to tertiary level. And I just find that rather odd. Why aren't we, from a very tender age, inculcating that whole tourism ethos and approach into our young people? I mean, you're teaching me about algebra and all kinds of stuff and so on that I will never use in my life, but something that is around me all the time. That's a pet peeve of mine, Marsha.
I would say it's actually a bugbear for mine as well.
Yeah.
I believe from a society perspective, we are academically driven. And even saying that you're studying tourism is not something that people actually put very high on the agenda because they think it's actually very low down there in terms of the sciences, social sciences. So what I would actually say to that is that the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., we have done and we will continue to do a number of programs where we introduce tourism into our schools, whether it's primary, secondary or tertiary level, because we believe that those kids are the future of tourism in Barbados.
So Marsha, let's talk a little bit more about you. I want to learn a little bit more about you. We know about we know you're at Alexandra School, BCC, UWI. That's on the education side. We know you started out an intern under Richard Williams down at the Cobblers Cove Hotel. But tell me a little bit about growing up in Barbados and your life as a young person, family life and that sort of stuff.
Well, I'm actually a classic introvert, but I disguise myself as an extrovert. So I know most people would never ever recognize that, because I actually do interact in the extroverted world. But when I don't have to be out, I am happiest with a good book,
Private.
privately, absolutely. And that has been my lifestyle. As a child, when people were asking, when they went to supermarkets and kids were asking, well, Mommy, can I have this candy or that candy? I would ask for a book. And it was always a treat for me to get a book, an Eden Blyton book, at the end of the month when my mom went shopping. That was for me the most amazing treat for me, outside of a toy or a candy or something like that. It pretty much has been something I've actually carried through to my entire adult life. I still love a good book, I still love a good read, and my genres are very, very wide, so I can read, autobiographies, I love a little bit of fiction, I love espionage, so really and truly I go right through the gamut when it comes to reading, because I think reading, as opposed to watching a movie, reading helps you to actually take your imagination where the writer can't. And so you're able to expound on whatever you think the character is, the protagonist is. And so, yes, writing. So if I couldn't do what I'm doing right now, I would love to be a writer.
To be a writer. Do you think that the average Barbadian gets it? Does the average Barbadian relate to tourism in the way in which the experts, people like yourself at BTMI, would like them to?
I would flip that question a little different and answer it in the fact that I believe that we need to be better in helping the average Barbadian to understand what's in it for them. And I think once we're able to clearly articulate to the average Barbadian what's in it for them and how they can benefit and how they can contribute, I think then you will see that mass following of ambassadors that we want all to have. And so we say tourism is our business, let's play our part, but we don't always teach them what that part is that they're playing and how they can play that part. And that's where we come in from a product development perspective in terms of building the awareness and building that the educational platform so that Barbadians can see, well, this is not just about me saying good morning and thank you, ma'am, to our visitors, but this is an opportunity for me to be able to actually get some kind of economic empowerment out of it. And this is how I can contribute. This is my island, this is my livelihood. We are a tourism dependent nation, and this is how I contribute to my nation and my national patrimony.
Generally speaking, we enjoy the same year-round weather, conditions, and so on. So is there a way in which we can move that needle and have our tourism product as a more annualized rather than seasonal?
So I believe it starts with the conversations around why are we tourism destination, and I believe that a lot of the past marketing was very centered and structured around sea, sun, and sand. So obviously, if you structure your product around sea, sun, and sand, you're only going to get people interested in your product when they're missing the sea, sun, and sand, or even just the sun. Yes, and so. In the past, that's really where the Caribbean destinations, I think, would have marketed themselves very well. I believe that this year, and following COVID, we have looked at different strategies. We are going after, obviously, new and emerging markets that are not necessarily interested in sea, sun, and sand, but they're interested in more heritage. They're interested in being able to travel from a mindful perspective, to volunteer, to live like a local, and that whole opportunity to integrate with the local community, we're seeing that a lot more and more, and there's a greater demand that we're seeing for our visitors for that kind of opportunities. And so as an entity, we at BTMI, we're looking to create different summer-based programs that will actually entice those persons and showcase Barbados as so much more than just sun, sea, and sand.
So, Marsha, let's talk a little bit about International Women's Day and that this event and how our women have emerged. And I want to ask you, really and truly, what, from your perspective as a woman and a successful businesswoman, professional in our number one industry, what does International Women's Day really mean from your perspective?
I think it's a celebration of our women. I think our women have paved the way for so many opportunities in Barbados and around the world. When I think of International Women's Day, I can't help but think of our Prime Minister, who has broken so many glass ceilings, and I believe has set the stage and the standard so high for women, and not just women, for people all across the Caribbean to be able to emulate. She is featured on almost every international magazine, every international show, every newscaster wants to interview her, and that is testament to the fact that she has prided herself as a Barbadian. She sees herself as a woman who's able to actually champion, for other women's rights and things like that. And I think that we are standing really good because we have some great leaders, female leaders, who've actually helped pave the way. And there's so many other women, that would have paved the way for us, for me certainly, to be able to be where I am today. And yes, there's still ways to go. Yes, there's still some issues and from an equality perspective. And I believe that will be there from time immemorial. I don't think that there's anything that we will be able to do to change that, but we can certainly forge ahead and make sure that our women are well represented in every single sphere, every single entity and industry that there is in Barbados.
Thank you very much, Marsha Alleyne.